All right, hey, it's June 22nd. Your Lake of the Ozarks fishing report brought to you by James and Denise Dale Guide Service, Crappie Bait Company. Well, the water's starting to heat up. We ran right on through the 70s, right into the 80s. And I don't know, that happened about 2 weeks ago. I guess it seemed like we got up to 70s, low 70s, then we kind of got a heat wave there for a while, several 90-degree days, and man, the water just shot right through the 70s, went right into the 80s, and it kind of, at least for us, it kind of took a lot of the shallow fish, and it shoved them way out deep, went way out on points, and they went real deep, at least for us, 20 to 26 foot, which is kind of early for this kind of, this time of year. Usually we have a post spawn and they kind of, settle in 15, 18 foot and get on them drops, but they kind of ran right on out, probably to the water that's just a little bit more stable temperature, didn't rise real fast or drop real fast. So, now the last few days, we've caught some fish a little bit shallower again, but still there's pretty good deep water back going. But so right now the water temp is in the low 80s. Lake level is 658.6, so it's about a foot below summer pool. They've been consistently running quite a bit of water through the lake, probably from 19 to 30,000 cubic foot for the last several days. Now today, when we was out, I noticed a little less current, and I looked it up, and they were running like 85 to 9,500 cubic foot today. So they kind of shut it down a little bit, but for the most part, most of your fish are still relating to your points in one way or another. Last several days, several trips are just out fishing. Kind of your summertime, all your summertime stuff's working right now. We're throwing the mag trick worm, just rigging it on a 5/8 ounce Crappie Shaky Pro head. Color really doesn't matter a whole lot. Green pumpkin magic. Basically, really, honestly, whatever we can find. It's really not mattering a whole lot. Green pumpkin red flake, watermelon red, really just the mag trick worm. It's a longer one, bigger one. Throw it on a heavier head so it gets down there and you can really feel that bottom. And you just want to get it out on points. We're catching some on some more gradual points, but most of the points that are productive are your points that come out and they have a decent drop at the end of them. So you're throwing up into, say, 15 foot of water, and you're working that bait down till it gets 15, 18, 20, and then it'll drop off, maybe say to the old river channel. That's going to be your best scenario, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a river channel, just something, a sharp drop, and they tend to just pile up on that break there, So we've been just dragging big worms out there. We've been throwing on a lot more big jigs here lately. The 3/4 ounce reaction jig, the Crappie reaction jig, and you can see we're just, as far as colors, this is just brown purple scale. We've been throwing Ozark crawl, some black and blue. As long as it's something natural, I don't think it really matters a whole lot. And really just trailing up with something like this baby packer crawl has been working real well. The Strike King Rage Tail works real well. Basically, something with like this one, it's just got them twin kickers on them. I call them. They're twin crawls, and they flutter. They move a lot of water. Because sometimes we're just going to drag these jigs. If the bite gets pretty tough, you kind of got to stroke that jig. You got to pop it off that bottom and just try to bring it up through some of these fish and just get them to react at it when they're not really biting real aggressive. So maybe if you're dragging your bait and you're not getting a lot of bites, just drag that thing about 5-6 foot and then rip it up off the bottom. Say, you know, 5 to 8 foot of water, and then let it sink back down. And a lot of the bites have been happening when you rip it up and then it starts falling back down. They'll pop it real hard. So, you know, might be something you try if you're not getting bites by just dragging it. The swim bait came on pretty good. It's kind of fizzled off a little bit here the last week or so. This is just a Zoom 5-inch swimmer. Probably my favorite one. There's a lot of different swim baits out there. I'm sure they all have their purpose and they all work. But I'm just rigging it on a 3/4 ounce head with a good big exposed hook. You know, a 7'2" rod with usually 17-pound test on it. And just throwing it out there. Same thing on these points. Let it sink down, hit about 15, 18 foot of water, and just creep that thing along the bottom for a few casts. You know, see if you're getting bites down low. If not, kind of speed it up and just kind of bring it up, say 5-foot increments up to where you start getting the bites. You know, it's a good idea just to maybe idle across the point or drop off with your electronics, and you can usually see the fish and where they're setting up, if they're on the bottom or if they're suspended, and that kind of tell you what baits to use. You know, obviously if they're suspended, you're either going to jerk that big jig, you're going to run your swim bait, or maybe a crankbait, you know, like a DD22, you know, 6 cents is making a good one. Strike King, you know, makes a great one. They're all, you know, just kind of, some of these crankbaits, like I've been throwing the 6X deal out, it goes probably 15, 16 foot compared to the DD22. You know, you can run it down 22, 24 foot, depending on your line size. On that crankbait, I don't know, I throw 12-pound test is basically what I'll throw. 12 fluorocarbon. You can even go down to 10-pound fluorocarbon if you're trying to get a little more depth out of your bait. You know, that lighter line will allow it to really go down there. And a lot of times you just throw that thing as far as you can, and just a good steady retrieve on it will get its max depth. You know, try to bring it to where it intersects with that break off, or maybe bumps that rock. Obviously is always a good idea with any sort of crankbaits, especially when they're not really biting real aggressively. If you can create some sort of diversion on the bottom or a reaction bite, it might pick you up a few more bites. You know, topwater bite, not a whole lot of topwater bite. We've gotten some in the mornings, early in the mornings, just running a spook. You know, running a spook on main lake points, some chug bugs, has seemed to, you know, it'll get you a few bites in the mornings. You know, sometimes they're decent fish, so them fish will come up and they'll feed halfway decent, you know, probably through the night and then early in the morning. You know, maybe a little bit of shad spawn still going on. I did notice today, actually probably the first time, we really noticed a big presence of fry. You know, small little 1-inch fry, big groups swimming around. So it's, I don't know if the water's just clearing off enough, I'm seeing it, but today we actually seen several different pods of fry swimming around. So, you know, anytime you see that, there's generally going to be some fish around it, either guarding them fry, or feeding on them, one of the two. But you can sometimes throw a spook around that, or you know, your crankbaits, or basically anything. If you get something around them fry, you usually seem to get a bite, you know, of some sort. You know, as far as the bottom baits, like I said, the different worms, the mag trick worm by Zoom, kind of a staple that works really well. The Gary Yamamoto cut-tail worms, really good. Zoom Old Monster has been catching a lot of fish, you know, that 10-inch old monster. And then still some brush hog too. Some days I want the bigger bulky brush hog. You know, same colors, green pumpkin, watermelon candy. Some days we've even been switching up and throwing June bug. You know, it really hasn't mattered a whole lot if you get the bait in front of them, you know, down there where they're at. But some days they do want a bulkier bait compared to just like a, you know, worm that's a little more slender. So just kind of switch it up. But basically, if you stay on points, secondary points, main lake points, try some that are big rounded points. Try some with drop-offs. You know, those have seemed to be in the best. But if you get one of them big, long rolling points that roll out there and the current comes up over them, those can be really productive points. And here, generally, the last couple of weeks, if we catch 1 or 2 fish on a point, we can spend some time on that same point, throw it different directions, throw from deep to shallow, shallow to deep, maybe parallel the point, run down the ridge. You'll just switch up your angles, throw down current, throw up current, just give them different angles until you see how the fish are feeding and kind of what they're, what creates a bite of some sort. I said the swim bait, that's kind of fizzled a little bit. It's still catching them though. As they come up, maybe when they shut this current down a little bit and the fish come up off the bottom suspend, it'll pick back up. I've also been throwing like some on some trips. We'll throw this this Kitech. It's a 4.5 Kitech, and I actually rigged it on just our gator lock head, our 7/16 gator lock. It's got that wire keeper, that goes up through your bait and hooks onto the shaft of the hook, and it'll hold that bait, that soft bait on it really good. And it's just kind of a perfect combination for those swim baits. So you can throw them on bait casters. We throw them on spinning rods and reel a lot. Spinning rod and reel is just a 7-foot rod. We're loading it up with 15 or 20 braid, and then we'll put about a 15, 16-foot leader on it. Usually, we're putting monofilament leaders on it. Mainly, you just want a leader, so you got a little bit of give. Obviously, that braid will make a lot more noise in the water, and I think that kind of may hamper the bite sometimes if the fish are getting real picky and finicky. But then also we'll put monofilament on it, because if we throw a topwater bait like a chug bug, or spooks or something on top, you just want the monofilament on the end of the spinning rods and reels. That way your bait will work properly. So we usually just rig it up, with monofilament. You've got all this braid on here. The majority of it's braid. If you've got 12, 15 foot of monofilament, that's not going to matter. It's not going to hamper your field much when you're throwing braid. So if you don't get out and fish a lot, or if you're having trouble getting a lot of bites or something, I'd recommend just get you a good spinning rod and reel, and a good rod. Spool it up with some braid, 15, 20-pound braid, and just go out there and drag it on these points, work on these points. You're going to feel every bite. I mean, it really, really enhances the bite. Maybe if you're not, used to fishing on the bottom or like fishing on the bottom because of the bites and how they feel, switch up and put your rod on with some braid, and it'll really change the way you work your bait, how you feel, and maybe how you feel about bottom baits, because it'll really bring you into tune with how the bites are and when you get bites and what your bait feels like on the bottom. And then you can kind of transition into maybe some fluorocarbon on a bait caster, because the bite's the exact same. You just don't quite feel it as enhanced like you do braid. But braid's just really good for bottom baits. I really like to, if I can find it, the yellow braid is excellent for bottom bait, bottom fishing, because you see the line. You can pick up the detective bites from the line movement, and then you're putting a long leader on there anyway, so it doesn't really matter what color it is. But if it's a bright color, you can really see it, and that'll also bring you into tune of how these fish are biting. And maybe a lot of times they'll pick that bait up and swim straight towards you, or they'll just swim to the side, and that color line will really allow you to pick that bite up before you feel the fish. So, if you're fishing bottom, you're not used to it, or you're having trouble feeling bites, get you a good spinning rod and reel. These Lew's Orange Crush, I don't know if you can beat them for the money, but they work real good, real durable rod and reel. The braid, I usually use like Power Pro. I have real good luck with it, but there's several brands out there. Honestly, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of difference in the braid brands. I can't really see a lot of different manufacturers, but that's something you just kind of test on your own and see if you have good luck with it. And basically what you're looking for is something that's limber, that doesn't coil up, It doesn't, feel just real, I don't know, wiry, I guess would be you just want something limber so it casts easy, gets to the bottom, you can see it and feel it, so maybe try different braids if you're going to get into braid. I know some guys use it a lot at night fishing. They'll throw braid on their bait casters. Probably a good idea. Pick up some bites you may not feel. The trouble I have if I put a braid on bait casters, it seems like I'm always hung up. It's hung up and it's locked up. There's no give, nothing to snap it off, or maybe work that bait off of there. So personally, I don't put braid on bait casters unless I'm throwing like top water buzz baits or whopper ploppers or something like that. But everything else, like I said, the crankbaits, throw 10 or 12 pound test on a longer rod, say 7'2", 7'4", so you can get good long cast and crank that bait down there. My big jig, I'm throwing it on 17-pound fluorocarbon, on a medium heavy rod, 7'2", usually on that. I want to make good long casts, so I can feel what's going on down there. Same thing on swim bait, 7'2". On swim bait, I usually throw anywhere from 15 to 17-pound fluorocarbon on that. That's really about it. What we're throwing. It's really not that complicated right now, other than just finding a group of fish. You're just trying to find a point that there's a bunch of them grouped up. There's still a lot of them grouped up post spawn. I'd say in the next 2 weeks or so, they're going to start spreading out as that water gets warm. Some of them are going to go deep, 25 to 35 foot. Some of them will turn around and go the other way. They'll be in 2 foot. So, for whatever reason, as it gets real hot, you get a group that goes deep. You get some that goes shallow. So you can just go back. If you're not catching them deep, start flipping some shallow docks or go to the backs and play around back there, because a lot of it's going to be related to also the shad. You see big school pods out deep over the channel or around the channel. And then if you get way back in the coves, some of the coves way in the back, they're loaded with shad. So if there's shad there, the bass are going to be there, whether it be deep or shallow. So just keep that in mind too. Crappie's really slowed down. The best way right now is just put you on a little crankbait, maybe a flicker shad or a bandit crankbait works really well. Something that goes about, 8 to 12 foot or even 12 to 16 foot, and just troll it. Just throw it, make a long cast with, say, 12-pound test, and just troll along these bluffs, or troll where your coves intersect with the bluffs or with the main lake. Those intersections are real good. Just watch your electronics, pick up a school of crappie, see how deep they are to kind of determine what depth crankbait you want to throw. But that's probably the best way to catch crappie right now and throughout the summer is just trolling a crankbait. You can catch them shooting main lake docks. We're still throwing that little easy swimmer that Kitech makes, that little 3-inch. If you see a wad of them on top of a brush pile, you can throw past it and just bring it, swim it right by it. You'll catch them like that. Crappie are just kind of spread out, and it ain't gonna be long, and the bass are gonna be doing the exact thing. They'll be settling in the brush piles, getting out deep on those big rock piles, those odd rock piles that you'll find, or like I said, they'll go in the backs and they'll get underneath them shallow docks. So, it ain't gonna change for another couple weeks, anyways. It's fishing's been real good. There ain't a whole lot else I can tell you. Your spoons will start working here pretty soon. If you find a big pile of fish, sit on top of them with the spoon. Drop shot's going to work for those. That's more of a finesse deal, but you can catch a lot of fish doing either one of them. On the drop shot, you catch a lot of fish, or at least we catch a lot. We just don't really catch a lot of size. I know some other guys do, but it's something. It's really easy bait to throw. The drop shot is, rig it up with. I don't have them out here, but you just rig that You tie your hook on there about, I don't know, I usually do about 2 foot, tie it up on your line, and then put your weight on the bottom, usually a 1/4 to 3/8 ounce weight on the bottom, so you got your weight, and you come up about 2 foot, you got your hook, and then your little worm, usually a 4-inch worm, and throw it out there. You can bounce it on the bottom, and that worm's up there suspended, or you can sit right on top of fish and just vertically fish them. So you catch a lot of fish doing that, but like I said, a lot of them are just kind of small fish. So other than that, guys, it's busy down here. It's busy during the week, but we're out. We've been out every day on trips and stuff, and we get out early. We're usually off the water by 10 or 11. Every once in a while we'll push it, if it's cloudy or rainy or something, and the boat traffic don't get bad and the fish keep biting, we'll stay out there. So other than that, when you come down, just be careful, enjoy yourself, and good luck fishing.